sport nostalgia, our special every day during a test match luncheon break, we have to talk about an incident that forever will be a subject of debate in the cricket world. And why are we talking about it? Because in the 2018 tour, our correspondent and my dear friend Devashish Sen had caught up with Mike Procter. We will listen to Mike Procter. Mike Procter was the match referee during that acrimonious Monkeygate saga in Australia in 2008. He was the one who had given the verdict against Harbhajan Singh. And as you will listen to Mike Procter, he holds to his point of view, says what he did, he feels is right. But we who covered that incident obviously beg to differ. So take a listen to Mike Procter, and I will come in and tell you my Monkeygate story, because I was there in Australia at that point in time and had covered the tour. Here's Devashish Sen in conversation with Mike Procter.
I wouldn't change what happened in 2008, and I must say the one thing which disappointed me a bit, but I suppose it was right, is that I never got any help at all from the Mr. Nigel Peters, who was the QC. He didn't intimate to me at any stage which way it was going, and I respected that because his job was just to oversee it. But the question you asked, would I go back on it? I wouldn't, because in my heart of hearts, I think I made the right decision on the facts that I was. Sachin had the chance to say what he saw the situation as it happened out there, and he was the striker. And as I said, he didn't hear anything that was said. That's what he told me in my hearing, and he tried to appease the situation. Then my hearing's over, I give my verdict, and there's an appeal process which goes before a judge from New Zealand, and apparently he said at that case that he heard what Harbhajan Singh said, which was a very bad Indian word, which was very unfortunate that he didn't say that to me, at my hearing. And
so there you've listened to Mike Procter and you've heard his side of the story. Having been Sachin Tendulkar's biographer, a dear friend to Harbhajan Singh for many years, more than a decade and a half, I can tell you, and obviously one of the journalists who was there in Australia at that point in time covering the tour, I can tell you our experience was different. Our experience was the Indians were being challenged unnecessarily. They were being pushed rather unfortunately, and what was going on was perhaps not correct. Let me also digress a little bit and tell you that Michael Clarke had spoken to Andrew Symonds then and had actually asked Andrew, does he really want to push the case? Was Andrew taken in by the pressure that he got from the Australian players, including the captain? These are questions that will not really be definitively answered. But Harbhajan was being vilified. Even after that incident, the number of times cameras were on him right through the tour. In Harbhajan's words, he was being treated like a convict. Yes, the Indian board exerted pressure, but which board wouldn't? If you feel that your player was being unnecessarily and unfairly targeted, it is only fair that the BCCI exercised its clout and pushed the case. Inderjeet Singh Bindra was sent to Australia by the BCCI, and clearly, off-camera deals were done. The BCCI did push its clout, and Australian players, after that Adelaide test match, they were about, around midnight, they were celebrating Adam Gilchrist's retirement in a pub. At that point in time, an emissary was sent and they had been asked to sign something. Many of them signed that without knowing what they were. And when the hearing happened, the charge had been reduced from level 3 to 2. Clearly, it was no longer a racist charge, and that was massively important from the Indian standpoint. The BCCI had indeed done a deal. And the BCCI had indeed pushed the case, and again justly so, because they believed that Harbhajan was being unfairly targeted. Shashank Manohar's father, VR Manohar, fought that case, and thankfully for Harbhajan he got a reprieve. That particular night, each of us remember, we waited, Indian journalists, right outside where the hearing was happening, and we could we could literally see what was going on from inside from a distance. And it was around 1:30 a.m. when the players finally came back. If you've been to the Sydney cricket ground, you will know there's nothing in and around. So none of us even had dinner. All we had was, one of our journalist friends had a packet of crisps, and one each was circulated among us visiting journalists. And then we went back to our hotel, only to be woken up by the late Dr. Sridhar, saying there would be a press conference at 5 a.m. in the morning, and in that press conference we were told that Harbhajan had been banned and the Indian team was determined to stand by him. The team was supposed to leave for Canberra that day. Even bags were put into the bus, but then thereafter they did not travel to Canberra, and all hell had broken loose. And then they went to Bondi Beach as a kind of team bonding and played together. The team entirely standing by Harbhajan Singh. The real story of Monkeygate, like Michael Clarke had said during his book launch in Calcutta, would perhaps never come out. So Mike Procter is entitled to his perspective, Sachin to his, and Harbhajan to his. And as journalists, we have tried to document the story in the best possible manner that we could. Hopefully you enjoyed this particular section. Again, we will come back tomorrow during the luncheon break with more specials like this in our special Cricket Nostalgia, brought to you by Thumbs Up and of course Yoda Diagnostics.